Ina?
How are you doing? We only miss Natalie and we can start. She should be coming, hopefully.
Ina?
How are you doing? We only miss Natalie and we can. Hi, Professor Jakub. You are on time.
Hi.
You made it. Hi.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Mr. Jakub.
Hello, Özkan.
Hello.
Hi, Jakub. Nice to meet you again.
Well, nice to meet you, Fabio.
I was with you under the rain in your
Yes,
turtle
yes,
center.
I remember you
Yeah.
came to Gokova and we came to release the turtles under the rain.
Yes, it's true.
Yeah.
Okay, let me see where she is so we can start because we are already live also. Ekla. Okay, Natalie, we have you as well. Hello, so we're full, we can start. Welcome everyone. We're also live on YouTube. For all those who did not have the link to join through Zoom or who preferred YouTube, we are live also there. Thank you for joining us for our webinar, which is one of the many series of webinars. Today we are speaking about P4 Planet, marine protected areas, their role in protecting the seas, and how can youth safeguard it. Today is also World Oceans Day, so we basically wanted to have a set of panelists who have a long-lasting relationship, firstly with marine protected areas, and then secondly also working experience, because we wanted to share you just before the summer started and just before the beginning of the summer holidays what marine protected areas are all about, and especially in this 2020, which is an not that classical year, and where we also mark the beginning of the decade of action and delivery for sustainable development. We're going to focus on different marine protected areas, and we're also going to focus on SDG number 14, which is life below water, and we will conclude on the role that young people have in order to safeguard the seas. This being said, I'm gonna introduce our panelists. We have with us today Mr. Fabio Valarola, who has a year-long experience with the marine protected areas. Then we have Natalie Beckett from the International Union for Conservation of Nature. Then we have Hind Al-Amiri from the Abu Dhabi Environmental Agency, which is assistant scientist there. Professor Jakub Kaska, he's the director of the Dalian Turtle Rehabilitation Center. And we have with us Özkan Anil, who is the responsible for the marine protected area of Yokova in Turkey. The meeting will be closed by Lorenzo, who's going to tell us a little bit more about the entire youth-led project, Yet Ecoplastic, which is a youth-led project created by high school students, which aimed to actually reduce the use of plastic in schools, but not only in schools, also in the daily life, and which is currently being implemented under the European Solidarity Corps. This being said, I will no longer continue with the floor and taking more time. I will ask Natalie to start and give us the short introduction of what marine areas are and why are they important. Natalie, we have problems listening to you. Still? You're muted. You're still muted. Natalie, yeah, yeah, you're not muted anymore, but we cannot listen. Maybe you can take off your earphones. Maybe it's gonna be better, but just, no, we're not listening to you. Okay, perfect. She'll leave and re-enter. Let us see if Natalie will manage it. If not, okay, maybe we can like leave Natalie. Let me see if she's no, she's entering right now. No, yes, no, no. Okay, let us see if she works. Okay, now yes.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, now yes. Perfect.
I'm so sorry about that.
No worries.
So I have some slides which I think I shared with you. Would you be able to share them on the screen?
Okay.
Sorry, I'm having some technical problems.
Of course.
Just do this.
Here you go. Your slides are being present. Zoom, share. Okay, here you go.
Great, thank you. Okay, so when talking about why marine protected areas are important, I think it's firstly very important to understand what a protected area is. So what do we mean by marine protected area? And according to the IUCN, a protected area is a clearly defined geographical space which is dedicated to conserving nature. But today we're going to be talking about marine protected areas, which are also known as MPAs. And an MPA is a section of the ocean where a government has placed limits on human activity. Many MPAs do allow people to use the area in ways that generally don't damage the environment, but some ban fishing and others don't let any people into the area at all. So marine protected areas have been established because the ocean and the things that live in the ocean face many different threats. These threats can include overfishing, litter, water pollution, climate change, and these threats have caused a decline in the population of many fish, marine mammals, and other sea creatures. So marine protected areas can be established in a variety of aquatic habitats. For example, some MPAs are found in protect coastlines, and they're called terrestrial MPAs. whilst other MPAs protect estuaries, which are the part of the river where the river meets the sea. And then other MPAs might protect freshwater habitats, which you would find in lakes. So at the moment, on a global level, there are over 17,000 MPAs. However, they only cover 7.44% of the ocean. Okay, so that's a few things about marine protected areas. Now, if we're asking why are they important? Well, they're important because they're the core of our efforts towards conserving nature. So they maintain biodiversity and provide refuge for endangered species. They protect critical habitats from damage by destructive fishing practices and other human activities. And they also allow these habitats to recover. What else do MPAs do? So MPAs provide areas where fish are able to reproduce and grow to their full size. It also increases the size of the fish in a physical sense, and also increases the quantity of fish in the surrounding areas, which may be used for fishing. Marine protected areas also help build the resilience of coastal areas to protect them against threats such as climate change. And they also help to maintain local cultures, economies, and livelihoods, which are linked and very often dependent on the marine environment. That's great. So just finally, marine protected areas, when we're talking about why they're important, they also provide us with lots of natural services known as ecosystem services, and that could be food, clean water supplies, medicine, protection from natural disasters, and also they're helping us to adapt to climate change as well as mitigating the impacts of climate change.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Natalie. If we have to think about maintaining biodiversity while providing refuge for endangered and commercial species, I would like to ask Fabio now, from his experience during the years, marine biodiversity and marine protected areas. What is actually really important when we speak about typical habits during the summer? What should we pay attention this summer and every other summer in the future? I will need you to.
Okay. So, okay, thank you. Thank you very much. I want to share the screen as well, if I can.
Yes, of course. Just go.
Okay. Share. Just to help me in my presentation. Just to show you what is about the. Okay. You know, the definition of a marine protected area from the IUCN exactly is a clearly defined geographical space recognized, dedicated, and managed through legal or other effective means to achieve the long-term conservation of nature with associated ecosystem services and cultural value. So what we are going to talk about is a conservation of nature and biodiversity, and sustainable use of ecosystem services and cultural values, like Natalie said before. In these two roads, we can talk about conservation of nature. In particular, in the European Union, we talk about Natura 2000, the most important program for the conservation of biodiversity, which is inside the new strategy for 2030, which is just approved 2 weeks ago in the European Commission. And it means work on more than 30,000 protected areas everywhere in Europe. They works for species and habitats. And one of the example I want to bring you is one of the marine species of birds, which is the Kentish polar, Charadrius alexandrinus in a Latin name, that is directly connected with the use of the beaches in Italy, because their nests are on the beach. So there is a problem due to the conservation of this kind of beach in Italy particularly, but in all the Mediterranean. We use the beach for tourism with a strong impact on these beaches, and a strong impact from the marine litter that arrive on the beaches every year, every winter. With floods, a lot of plastic arrive on the beach, and the problem is that during the spring, the nests are on the same beach where we make the cleaning. So there is a big conflict between the tourism uses of the beach and the conservation of these species of bird, the species of bird, because we need to try to stop the activities, but you know, the economic power of the tourism on the beaches is very, very important, and it is not so easy to work on it. And only with the big volunteers coordination, we started to work on it, working on each nest that we can find on the beach. This is one of the experience that I think we can use inside the marine protected area and in the coastal areas. It is an experience very hard because we have you know, usually we consider the tourism one of the sustainable use of the natural resources, but it's not always like this. So we have to be very careful to what could happen, also not directly with tourism, but also with the connection with tourism, like the cleaning of the beach during the spring. I can stop here for the moment.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much, Fabio. This was really, really, really interesting. Going back to our, let's say, science from a scientific point of view, Hind, we will be interested to learn more. Is there only one species, or there are like many? And in which cases do you make the decision to actually protect them? When it is needed, and how do you organize all the protection part? Because then we will hear from the field that we actually cover and protect also different species during inside the marine protected areas.
Yes, of course. So basically, the marine protected areas don't only protect one species, because it's an area covering a larger area, of course. But before I get into what kind of species we're actually protecting in protected areas, the other day I read this very interesting piece on the National Geographic, and they really said something about marine protected areas that hit me, is that you can really think of an MPA like a boost of vitamin C taken at the onset when you almost have a cold but not sure. So it may not really cure you, but it can actually help you bounce back. So that's what a protected area can do to our ecosystem, because that area tends to be more resistant to disturbance, and it's more resilient, thus coming back faster. The health of our ocean systems have never been more threatened and more critical to our well-being as it is at the current point. So these protected ocean spaces, and when they're defended well, there are some problems in the oceans or in the world's oceans that they won't help us fight, but can actually help mitigate them in the future. So for example, if we talk about overfishing, studies have shown that completely closing off a portion, like the MPAs, to activities like fishing and drilling can actually help in keeping wildlife populations healthy and increasing that biodiversity. And in no-take marine protected areas, they have been found to yield higher quantities of fish and more ecological diversity. So we're really protecting everything in that area, whether it was from microscopic species to the larger or the biggest whales you can ever see. There's also growing evidence that when that marine protected area is managed well and is chosen well, it can really enhance not only the fisheries within the protected area, but it also spills out to areas outside the MPA. Another example of something MPAs won't be able to prevent is climate change, but it can help the ecosystems bounce back, because you're protecting the biodiversity within the marine protected area. Thus, you're protecting that genetic diversity, which can be resilient to increase in temperatures, for example. So we really need more protected areas in the right places where the conservation need is most urgent and the potential for their contribution for both humans and the wildlife at the same time is at its highest. And when they are well designed and well managed, and especially when they are networked together, they can really boost the health of the ecosystems and even turn around the downward trends of marine biodiversity. From a more personal view, because I work with marine turtles more specifically and marine species that are threatened in the region, we've really seen that they are in higher numbers when it comes to dugong herds, for example. We have been seeing them in higher numbers within the marine protected areas rather than outside them. So this really indicates that the marine protected areas that we have do really service the protection of the biodiversity in that area.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Hind, on this overview. And thank you very much for actually simplifying that for us, that marine protected areas are actually as vitamin C for our organism before we have some flu or whatsoever. And thank you for tackling two important points, which our next speakers are going to follow a little bit more from their experience on the field. I will take them from the opposite order that you said them. Marine turtles in the marine protected areas, because I would like to ask Professor Kaska to to tell us more about the marine turtles protected area in Dalyan, which is actually covered by the Pamukkale University. And then we are gonna focus more on the overfishing. So Professor Kaska, all yours.
Thank you. As other speakers already mentioned, I think the protection of marine environment is very important for especially migratory animals like sea turtles. Sea turtles are maybe nesting on the beach, as the seabird mentioned by the Fabio. They are putting their eggs on the terrestrial habitats. So we need to consider not only the marine protected areas, but the surrounding beaches and the lagoons and all the related environment. This is one thing. The other thing is maybe our turtles nesting in Dalyan, but wintering in Tunisia or in other countries. So we need to basically collaborate and make similar efforts among the countries. In the same manner, we can protect them. And the sea turtles have other interesting characteristics, like Hind Al-Amari mentioned, and the other panelists also mentioned, global warming. Global warming is affecting most of the animals, but it's directly affects the sea turtles because their sex is determined by the temperature of the sand. So we are talking about 2 degrees of increase in 50 years time or different scenarios. But if that happens, probably all the sea turtles have to find a new nesting sites, or they will wiped out from the world, basically, because all of them will be all females. And if there is no males, then there is no continuation of the population. And the other thing probably important is recently we are working on the plastic ingestion by the sea turtles. And this is very important, especially usage of the single plastic bags. They look like jellyfishes in the sea. So throwing a plastic bag in the sea, it's like throwing a bullet to an animal. A single plastic can kill a turtle, can cause to kill the turtle, or they might be triggering the mortality, let's say. So there are many other aspects, like the genetic diversity is another thing. Although we need to protect the species, we need to consider also genetic diversity and the sex ratio differences between the populations and other characteristics as well. So these are the things that I will mention now, not to take much time of the other speakers, but these are the highlights of the sea turtle conservation and the protection of the marine environment and the related habitats.
And if we have to ask, how is the Dalyan Turtle Center organized? Like, how do you work and how do you protect the turtles, like practically? So someone who doesn't know anything can actually understand.
Well, thank you. This Decamer Rescue Center actually established in collaboration with the university, as you mentioned, and an NGO called Pamukkale Science Center Association and the Ministry of Environment as well. So there are basically 3 legs and also local municipality. Sorry, I forget. So these 4 main components of the rescue center, and each organizations have their responsibilities, but majority of the responsibility is under the NGO, the Decamer NGO. So mainly the expenses covered by the NGO, and they are asking for the projects from the funders, and the continuous project comes from the ministry, but this is not enough to cover all our expenses. We have to search for other donations or other projects, and we do accept also voluntary contribution from the visitors when they come to visit the center. But it is just 10 years old, an organization, but we are moving towards the more sustainable way. But at the beginning, maybe we might having 5 to 10 injured animals in a year. But in recent years, we received nearly 80 injured animals in a year. So this is very important, and we need really quite large amount of financial support to run the center.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Özkan, what are you going to tell us more about the fishing population and the work done in the Gökova Marine Protected Area? What has been happening during the years, and why did you actually decide to protect the areas and to start working also with the projects of the rangers? We will need you to unmute. You need to press the unmute. Okay, perfect.
Thank you. As you see on the slide, Gökova is on the south west of Turkey. It's a pristine area, and geographically, it's covered by high mountains, not very high population. And just remember what all speakers said so far, all the ingredients, all the inputs they mentioned is located in Gökova at the moment. And before we came to Gökova, it was a special protected, environmental protected area established in 1988. Then we came to the Gökova around 2010, 2011. And when we arrived there, that area was populated with trawlers, so much pressure on overfishing, and touristic air operations were started in the area. And at those years, we established our organization, AKD, Mediterranean Conservation Society, and Gökova was the right place to get and establish ourselves. And during last 10 years, we were really monitoring all the activities in the area. Just to give you some figures, in 2011, the income of the fishing community over there in Akyaka, for example, Akyaka Fishing Cooperative, was about 1,800 liras per boat, per year, per month. But just last December, it was 8,700 liras per boat, per month. So actually, the income of the fishermen, their livelihood increased so much. One more slide, please. And we established no-take zones, as I said, as you see on the map. The red areas were completely closed for fishing, no-take zones. What we are doing there, those are habitats that the waters, small creeks coming to the Gökova, bringing all the nutritious from the mountains and from the areas. And these are where the fishing juveniles are born. then they leave the area. We are monitoring them when they leave, at what carbon weight they leave the area, and then either they come back or not. In the red areas, about the main fishing in the areas are trouts. They hatch here, they leave the area, and in the green zones, they are caught by the fishermen or fishers. So this is how the system works. Keep the areas, no-take zones as they are, no touching, no fishing, even no snorkeling and all that. But to do that, we erected first time in Turkey a community supported ranger system. One more, please. That, okay, go ahead. The ranger system, these are just the pictures from the areas. The community supported ranger system, we ask for the fishermen, retired or getting old fishermen, will you work for AKD as a ranger in the area? And we started with them, but since the areas are getting larger and larger, we are employing more rangers to the areas. We have fast boats. One more slide, please, Ina.
That's all I have.
No, you should, okay. Okay, I think we are. Check ENA2, ENA2 PPT.
Wahid
Yeah.
didn't send me to a PPT. I only have this one from Wahid.
Oh, I think you, okay. What we established for each no-take zone, we assigned a fast boat with a ranger on it. And rangers were in the beginning, as I told you, from the retired fishermen, but it didn't work. Because those small communities, the illegal fisher, either a parent or an uncle or a nephew. So we shifted those people to university graduate students. And right now in Gökova Bay, we have 5 fast boats with the rangers on them. And they are actually working sunset, sunrise to sunset. They are actually supporting these ones. As you see, we equipped our rangers with night vision cameras and fast boats. We are actually assisting the Coast Guard and Minister of Forest agencies in the area. We are not taking their place because we have no right to patrol, but we are just assisting them, you know. And it's going very well. At the moment, everyone knows us, and we are getting to a degree that we are getting so much support from the community, students, the local people, the fishermen. Right now, they are passing us the information what's going on about the illegal fishing, and that project worked so well. We are right now replicating that to other new areas, which is Kaş, Göcek, and the other areas. As you see on the slide, we are not only taking the care of the Gökova, but we are taking care of the students, the people living there, taking students to patrol with us. And as you see, the monk seals and sandbar sharks are at the moment in our radar. We are working with them. And the project has been established, since it's been established for the 10 years almost. Now we are carrying the replica of this project to our other areas in the southwest of Turkey. This is all I can say at the moment.
Perfect. Thank you very much. That's fantastic. And that's actually fantastic on different levels, not only on the fish protection and on the species protection, but also on the community involvement and the youth people involvement, which is our, let's say, next round of discussion, and which are some of our questions that we're going to come on after we finish with all the intervention. Going back to the tourism, Natalie, can you share with us why the coastal development, the tourism can be the treat for the marine protected areas, and what has been done during the years in order to actually avoid tourism becoming a treat?
Yes, so in terms of coastal development and tourism, looking at it as a threat, I think as one of the other panelists just said, so different Mediterranean or different marine protected areas offer different levels of protection. So some marine protected areas allow no human entry at all, while other MPAs are less strict and allow people to travel through them and use them for recreational activities such as snorkeling or swimming. So, and as someone else said, some MPAs even have specific zones where you can fish, but you have to follow certain guidelines. And if a Mediterranean or if a marine protected area is really well managed, it can help protect the environment whilst also providing opportunities for local sort of economic growth and socioeconomic benefits. And one way marine protected areas can do this is through tourism. And from the work that I do, we focus a lot on ecotourism, which is a form of tourism which can happen in a protected area or around the area, and it doesn't have a bad impact on the environment. However, if this tourism is not managed well, and the marine protected areas don't have a good management system in place, then tourism becomes a threat and can have a lot of negative impacts on the marine protected areas. Then if we want to talk about sort of coastal development and tourism in general, it's a really interesting topic, especially in the Mediterranean, because it's currently having a very negative impact on the environment. So tourists in the Mediterranean generally have a high pressure, place a lot of pressure on natural basic resources. So they generally use 3 to 4 times more water than local residents. They produce a lot more solid waste, and they use a lot more energy. And also currently, I think 50% of marine litter, which is rubbish that you find in the ocean, is generated by Mediterranean coastal tourism. Because a lot of the tourists that we see coming to the Mediterranean, generally, I think 220 million tourists come every year, and 100 million of those tourists generally will reside around the beaches and along the coast. And what this pressure leads to is a lot of uncontrolled coastal development, sort of heavy pressure urbanization, which is all serving the tourism industry. So this means that around the Mediterranean coast, we're building up huge amounts of infrastructure for tourism activities, which are having a negative impact on the nature around our coastlines. And this impact is then, this infrastructure and the impact of it is then leading to habitat loss around the Mediterranean, which in some cases is now leaving some places in a state where they're beyond repair, which means that they might never go back to the natural state that they were in beforehand. You know, to add to that, I think a lot of this sort of mass tourism around the Mediterranean and around the coastlines, it's not actually generating much income for local communities. So a lot of the income that's coming from this is going to larger foreign international corporations and not serving local people. So yeah, I think that just about sort of sums up your question.
Thank you very much, Natalie. Thank you very much, and thank you very much for giving the overview of the entire coastal tourism, let's say, and all the impact that marine protected areas can have if well developed, and what is actually the current situation with the coastal development and all the, let's say, the hotels and corporations which are near the beaches and which are not actually giving back to the society in terms of actually to the nature that they land off. Going back to Fabio, can you please, because you have been for more than 10 years part of the marine protected area of Torre del Cerano, which is one of the most important Italian tourist destinations. Can you please give us like an overview that you already started of the importance of the beaches in your previous part, but also on the importance of what kind of education should be done through the international networks as the MedPennies or any other, in order to educate, starting from schools, from the zones in the marine protected areas, and then going all the way to universities, or going to also to schools where there are not marine protected areas, but where, however, every summer customers, tourists come from?
Yes, a lot of things to say. I share the screen again just to have some help with the slides. We start again from these slides about the protected area, and we talk about the sustainable use of ecosystem services now. This where we find a system to manage the tourism in a sustainable form, which is called European Charter for Sustainable Tourism, which is one of the instruments that we have for do it, and to control in some way in the protected area the use of the resources, because we have a footprint really big on the planet, and one of the biggest is the industrial fishing activities. And what is important to say in the protected area, that in some part of marine protected area, the small fisheries is admitted, which is quite important, because in the future we need to understand which form of fishery of fishing is sustainable for our oceans, for our seas. So to work with fishermen, for small and artisanal fishermen, is very important for the protected areas. And just because the not sustainable fishing transform the bottom of the sea like this, without any form of life. And another important social and cultural values to conserve, one of the biggest resources, the tourism. This happened inside the marine protected area in Torre del Cerano, where I was a director. And you can see that during the summer there is a big presence of tourism, but if you manage it in some form of planning, you can involve people working on the environment, working on the volunteer activities for visual census, for sustainable mobility, guided visits. So in this way, the marine protected area really active as a university for population, something that they don't have from the normal media, they can have during their summer and their holiday. And what is important is that the European Charter for Sustainable Tourism involve the population and the stakeholders that are in the area of the marine protected area. This is the votation of the action plan of the European Charter for Sustainable Tourism, and all the people seated on the tables are from activities connected with tourism, with fishery, with mobility, association, NGO, administrative activities, and they agree with the marine protected area the form of the action plan for the future. It's the first one was in 2014, the second one is 2019, and the results are very, very interesting. And we involve the people the owner of the hotels, of the B&B, of the camping, as well as the owners of activities on the beach. And we formed also the guides for the place, for the marine protected area. So there is a sort of activities everywhere in all the protected area to have guides, to have people who works with the protected area, sometimes in a professional way, but always in a volunteers way, because really young people are really connected with their own land, and they want to be useful for their own marine protected area. So there are everywhere activities like this, and also in a spot activities like the cleaning of the beach, cleaning of the bottom of the sea. We are always moving in a sort of way till the citizen science, which is very, very important. I mean, we are in a part of our history where the citizen science could be very useful for the research that we are doing on the sea. And just to tell something more about networks, I want to tell you that MEDPAN and ADRIAPAN, which is the small network of protected area in the Adriatic Sea, works all together to develop a best approach to the conservation of biodiversity in the sea. And the MEDPAN started to work in 1990. Now there are so many protected areas in the Mediterranean Sea that are member of this network. And MEDPAN is an organization based in Marseille at the moment in France, but it's really an international organization. And it is an NGO, an association with a secretariat very active, and with the donors that come from foundations, international foundation, local territories, from European countries, European resources, economic resources, and there are also so many activities useful for young people who want to work in this kind of job, this kind of activities for the sea. And in 2007, we started also in the Adriatic Sea with something that worked inside the MEDPAN association. This is the situation in the Adriatic Sea. So many marine protected areas involved in the ADRIAPAN activities, 43 in 2020. And what is important, this kind of organization, is that it is not a pyramidal organization, but really a network. It means that each node of the net, each place where you want to start your activity, you can involve all the other part of the network. This is quite important for the project, for international project, for the project on the sea, because you know the sea, the border of the sea are the countries, and protected areas are around the sea on the coast. So connecting together all this area is quite important, and it is important to make projects together. We can think that working in a network, the results are really better than working alone. Not only for the importance of sharing experience, but also because you know, all the authorities of marine protected area are quite a small organization. So alone is difficult to reach economic resources, to reach the knowledge you need for a big project. So working together is very important at the moment to have a massive and strong result for the planet. I mean, what is really important is now that is starting something really new, which is this is coming from France, from Brest. They started with this new form of collaboration between people interested to work on this kind of topics. It is called Hackathon. And one is in all these towns that you can read on the banner, and they call for challenges. In June the 30th is going to close the registration, and in 48 hours, all the people that want to work on a project that they find online, they can develop this project. So you can imagine how is important this kind of proposal. Everybody in their own house, they can just switch on the computer and helps for a challenge. That could be the conservation of turtles or sustainable tourism, could be any kind of challenge. But it's really interesting to find in this kind of platform the opportunity to participate in a so big project.
Thank you very much. That was totally exhaustive and totally detailed. Just moving from the Mediterranean before we start with the questions, because I already see 4 questions here. Moving from the Mediterranean and going back to the United Arab Emirates, what are the challenges of safeguarding the marine areas in the Gulf area? What can young people do, or what are they already doing?
Okay, so the Gulf region as a whole can be considered as it being an already environmentally challenging area for both species and habitats to maintain life due to a variety of reasons, one of them being the high salinity level and the extreme temperature that the area is. However, we do see the species and habitats thriving in the most fascinating ways. And if we look at the United Arab Emirates, and more specifically on Abu Dhabi, there are a few things that have been done to protect and safeguard marine areas. And concerning to our topic today, which is marine protected areas, we in Abu Dhabi established 6 marine protected areas, which account for 13.6% of our waters. And we are pushing towards 20% in the upcoming years. Our vulnerable species and habitats have been protected by the law since 1999. We have a procedure for environmental impact assessments, and it has been running for almost 20 years now, which basically helps protect our habitats as well as the species associated with them, and place mitigation measures if development is to come up. In a more broader sense, our critical habitats are protected. And for critical national infrastructure, we always go towards researching to see if there are any other options or locations to avoid any loss of further habitats. Mitigation measures are also set in place in the off chance we lose a percentage of these habitats, along with some compensation measures as a last resort. So in Abu Dhabi, we have protected areas, our EAE, we have EIA procedures in place. Our critical habitats are protected and have the hierarchy. The threatened species are protected, and our fish stocks are happily recovering. Some other measures that we undertook that don't necessarily protect marine areas in specific, but by addressing these sublayers, we are indirectly safeguarding them. So for example, we have banned specific fishing methods that detrimentally affect sea turtles. And we go back to sea turtles because it's the topic that I'm concentrated on. And by banning these fishing methods, we are reducing the number of marine turtles that are being killed off because of these fishing methods, which thus ensures healthy coral reef areas and healthy seagrass beds. And then we finally end up with an overall better ecosystem. And to answer your question about what young people can do is simple, whether it was within a marine protected area or not. It's that we need to keep in mind that it is us as people that actually needs the clean and healthy oceans, because it supports our own health and our own survival, even if we don't live anywhere near them. So each one of us can make a difference, and it is actually time to take that action. So in general, I really urge everyone to think about any of the threats to the oceans that concern you the most, whether it was about the ocean plants or animal species, habitats or ecosystems that you really want to conserve or protect and restore locally or globally. And some actions that the youth can take can be split into 3 things. It's to conserve, protect, and restore. So if we think about conservation, we can think about reducing the use of plastics. So the less more or less of it ends up in our oceans. If we think about protection, we can campaign our government to have some laws or international policies submitted if that's the way the government goes. We can also take part in restoring our environment by taking part in environmental related events such as beach cleanups. And in relation to that, if I speak again more locally about Abu Dhabi, we, for example, have the Sustainable Schools Initiatives. We have the Sustainable Campus Initiative, which was designed to really help schools and universities reduce their ecological footprints, as well as increasing their environmental actions towards sustainability. So this is, again, more in a general sense on the environment rather than specifically targeted to marine protected areas. But of course, it's again, very much applicable to marine protected areas. And this program really seeks to promote the critical thinking abilities, leadership qualities, and problem-solving skills in these students. It also strives to empower teachers with new instructional strategies that would enable them to effectively integrate environmental education into their classrooms. And I'd like to end by saying and reminding everyone that, as they always say, knowledge is power. And it's the most valuable thing in the world that one person has knowledge. And it's the one thing that no one can ever take from you once you have acquired it. And what actually makes it stronger and yourself stronger is to actually share that knowledge with everyone around you. So my advice to everyone is to stock up on knowledge about whatever it is you're passionate about, and work towards it and share it with everyone around you to ensure a better environment for everyone.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That was really useful, insightful, both of you, both of the last relators, on how actually the future can be seen and how young people can actually be involved in the future, about the conserve, protect, and restore, and all the education and all the volunteer activities that Fabio was mentioning before that actually are happening in the marine protected areas, and not only in the marine, but also in other protected areas, and that need to be actually more promoted among young people and make them aware of. Before we close with Lorenzo, who's going to tell us more about the Yet Ecoplastic project and what were the impacts in the 2 schools where it happened, and how actually it was born, I have one question which I would like to ask a fast answer from all panelists, which says, focusing on the role of youth in the growth of MPA specifically, besides being responsible tourists, what would it be? So like just one answer out of your mind, each of you. Who's going to start? Fabio,
Anna, sorry, I couldn't understand the question.
Focusing on the role of youth in the growth of MPAs. So if we see the young people towards making the MPAs grow, but only the MPAs, besides being responsible tourists, what would their role be?
So the role of youth people inside the growing of the MPA.
Yes. Okay. Yes.
As I told in my short part of the PPT I presented, there are so many young people that work for MPA, for the MPA, and for protected areas in general. I think the experience, the new ideas is the best solution for the future of MPA. You cannot approach to the new problems of the sea and the problems of the management of tourism with the old idea, with the old solution. We need a new approach, and only young people can give it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Natalie, maybe, would you like to add something?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think in general, when it comes to anything to do with conservation, but I guess specifically talking about marine protected area conservation, as young people, it's just really important to educate yourself as much as possible. So there's a huge amount of information online and lots of YouTube videos and different things like that, which I think are really interesting to read. There's lots of, look at different resources. And then also, I guess if you're really passionate about it, think about going into research. As Fabio said, we're always looking for more and new solutions, and a great way to find those solutions is through more research. So,
thank you.
Yes.
Özkan?
Well, Uh, Good question. What I noticed so far, young people are so much interested in to work in the MPA as a helper, as an assistant. They come at the age of 13, 14 for us, where I'm talking about the big numbers. But as they are getting higher in their classrooms, in the, graduate levels, they see they are more attached to their occupations and leaving the marine protection or conservation aside. What I am saying, you can easily carry out your occupation, whatever you are. You can be a doctor, minister, officer, whatever you want, but you can still be a conservationist and assistance to an MPA, which I am doing right now. It's a dual track. Keep them together and they'll be enjoy more of their life, and actually giving to the nature will return them as a good peaceful feelings at the end.
Thank
Keep
you.
going on two tracks. Thank you.
Professor Casca?
Well, this is very important, and I just want to share the founder of the Turkey, Atatürk, is dedicated our republic to the youth. And keeping in the same line, if we want to see our MPAs, our protection areas, all our fruits, let's say, will be safe in the youth's hand. If we cannot have young people following us, then we will not have the safe future of the MPAs. So in any way, if we try, we need to have young people continuing and doing better than us, so that we can have a better future for all living things, not only for one species of animal, but for entire world.
Thank you. Hint, last but not least.
Yeah, so I really think having that holistic approach to stakeholder participation, where youth are increasingly being recognized as core stakeholders in community-based conservation efforts, would really enhance the role of the youth, thus also giving them a push towards participating with stakeholders and decision makers. I think that's a way, that's one way that youth can actually participate in decisions as well.
Thank you very much. So before I close this pleasant discussion, and I really hope it's not going to be the last one, and then we can have a chance actually to create concrete actions in all the marine protected areas and educate young people, which is maybe the most important part with practical education. I would give the floor to Lorenzo to give us just a short overview of the Yet Ecoplastic, and maybe how can the project be multiplied in the marine protected areas from everything you have seen.
Sure. So first of all, I wanted to thank all the panelists for the words they said, because it was really, this is really Yet Ecoplastic is about, because when it comes to awareness among the young people, it is essential to raise it so that we can have a better future. So let me tell you something more about Yet Ecoplastic. Yet Ecoplastic is our project that we, that 3 other students from the 5th grade in high school and me are carrying out, have been carrying out for the last month. So what it's all about is basically on 2 levels. We can see the plastic side of things, which is really important when it comes to SDG number 15 and 14, because what we are aiming to do is lower the use of plastic. So our initial project was to provide our high schools with flasks so that we could lower the use of plastic bottles. But then we understood that it was more than that. It was, and it is still, about raising awareness for sustainable development. So we understood that we had to start from our small reality so that we can go bigger. And that's what we did. We started from our school, asking ourselves what is wrong with our school system, what could be implemented. And we found out that mainly plastic is not a big deal in our schools. So we said we have to change this, and we started doing that. But then, as we all know, we are facing now a global pandemic, and so things had to change. But this did not keep us from from keeping on working for a sustainable development and for a sustainable future. So we took the discussion online, and we started understand that there are so many people, so many young people that want to know more about it and want to know more about how concretely do something about it. So our project is really about raising this awareness and relating these to the things that have been said during the webinar. I believe that we can use our project, we can use YEP as an instrument to make new tourists, so that our beaches can be safer, and we can make new citizens that consume in a very responsible way, so that plastic bottles do not end up in the ocean and kill the marine life. So yeah, coming back to our project to wrap it up, what YEP is actually about is about for young people that wanted to make a change, and we are moving towards it with our means. And our means today are social media and social platforms, because that's the way that young people communicate. So we believe that it was essential to keep the conversation on that level. So actually, we created YEP so that we could keep on going, even with a global pandemic going on. And there, like my fellow panelists before said, there are so many things that you can do just from your computer, from your home, and that's where everybody can start, and that's what we with YEP would like to make everybody understand.
Thank you very much, Lorenzo. Thank you all. Sorry for keeping you 7 minutes more, and happy Oceans Days. Keep in touch, absolutely. Have a nice evening or afternoon wherever you are. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.